Think about it. What would you do if you had a bad run of luck? The chances are that you'd end up turning to government agencies for a bit of help.
I think the social welfare system is a real blessing. It shouldn't be taken for granted. It shouldn't be abused.
My husband is disabled. Without the benefit system, we would have found things very difficult.
Here in the UK, millions of us need to ask for help every year in the form of benefits, legal aid and healthcare. But there are some people who are out there to cheat the system out of as much as they can.
They're cheating the people who pay into the system, the general public.
How are these people managing to get away with this?
But those people who are trying to get rich from the public purse are now being sniffed out by investigators who want to make sure that as much money as possible is available to those who need it. This is the world of saints and scroungers. Coming up, the scroungers that are out to beat the system. A jet-setting mystic who claimed benefits despite earning pennies from heaven.
There were payments being made in foreign currency, including Sri Lankan rupee, American dollars, and in euros over in France as well.
Being the sole breadwinner in any family is a huge responsibility, but at least you can take pride in the fact that you're putting food on the table and a roof over your family's head. Imagine the feeling then when you know you can't provide because you can't work because you're just too ill. For most of us, it will be hugely demoralising. But for a benefit cheat, it's a big opportunity. Meet married father of three, Younas AlGohar. He's unfortunately been unemployed since 1999 due to suffering severe migraines and has been reliant on government support to help him and his family. The family lived in rented accommodation in Kingswood, a leafy, affluent suburb 18 miles south of London, and he was helped out by Reigate and Banstead Borough Council. Julian Ellicott is a local councillor there.
Reigate and Banstead Borough Council is responsible for paying a number of benefits, housing benefit, council tax benefit in particular, and we pay those to people in need of them, mainly unemployed, people on low incomes.
People just like Younas AlGohar.
Younas AlGohar was claiming housing benefit and council tax benefit from Reigate and Banstead Borough Council, and he was also claiming income support from the Department for Work and Pensions.
Sounds fair enough, but when AlGohar moved, the landlord of his new property got in touch with the council and an investigation kicked off. The case landed on the desk of one of the council's fraud investigators, who, due to the nature of his work, has asked to remain anonymous.
It's common practice for the landlord of a property to ring up the council and inform them that a new tenant has moved in, because the tenant then becomes liable for the council tax bill. And this was the case with Younas AlGohar. The landlord called up and informed the council of the tenancy conditions.
It transpired through that initial phone call that the landlord was charging nearly double the amount Younas AlGohar was claiming. What was going on? The fraud team decided to take a look at AlGohar's original claims.
As part of the investigation, I contacted the letting agents for the property in Kingswood and asked them to provide a copy of the genuine tenancy agreement. The agreement they provided me with showed that the rental amount was actually £2,700 a month. However, the agreement that Younas AlGohar provided the council stated that his rent was only £1,400 per month.
So, why was AlGohar paying nearly twice the amount of rent he was claiming? The amount of extra money Younas AlGohar was forking out to his landlord didn't sit well with someone who was supposedly reliant on income support. The investigators widened their search.
It's common practice to do what's called open source intelligence searching, which is basically putting a name into an internet website, searching and seeing what comes up. On this occasion, I found that Younas AlGohar had quite a high profile public presence on the internet, as well as his own website, all which were linking him to an organisation called the Mehdi Foundation International. From the web searches, there were lots of pictures of Younas AlGohar in various situations. I was able to compare these pictures to what we already held on the benefit claim from his passport, and from that I was able to see that they were the same person.
Referred to online as His Holiness and claiming to be a mystic, writer and poet, AlGohar is in fact the chief executive of the Mehdi Foundation, whose website claims to promote divine love and the reduction of hatred, all of which sounds marvellous. The investigator carried on searching and discovered AlGohar had previously claimed housing benefit for a house just 5 miles away in Coulsdon.
From looking at the claim paperwork for Coulsdon, I discovered a pattern with what happened with Kingswood. that there were discrepancies in the rental amount, the tenancy conditions and the agreement that had been provided to the council.
So, another claim. This time the landlord charged AlGohar £2,800 per month, and again he was only claiming just over half the amount. So where was all the extra cash coming from?
It appeared from the information we got so far that Younas AlGohar was renting quite expensive properties, quite luxurious properties, and then declaring to the council that the rent was significantly lower to that he was actually paying.
So that's two properties claimed for in the same way. A pattern was definitely emerging, but so far it made no sense. Investigators kept digging and found that another property had been claimed for in very much the same way in the nearby borough of Bromley. The property was in the town of Keston, 15 miles away. The investigation was getting even wider.
It is important for councils to work together mainly because people can obviously move around from one area to another, and therefore they will claim benefits from different councils over a period of time.
So the next stage was to contact them to verify that their claim was genuine as well. When I got in touch with my counterpart at the London Borough of Bromley, they established that the same pattern had been followed with that claim as well.
Yet another property rented in the same way. Younas AlGohar was claiming £1,600 per calendar month, but was actually paying £2,850. The sums just weren't adding up. It certainly looked like there were 3 fraudulent claims in 2 boroughs, with one objective: to get the council to pay half your rent so you can live in a house you would never normally be able to afford. Something had to be done to find out where all this cash was coming from. He told the council and the DWP he wasn't working. If there was something dodgy going on, the council weren't going to let it slide. We'll find out later if they get the proof they need.
The police undertook the search of the property, seizing numerous bits of documents and taking photos as they went.
Time now to return to the seedy and greedy world of our money-hungry scroungers. Spiritualist leader Younas AlGohar had been unable to work since 1999 due to migraines and living on benefits. Suspected of living in luxurious properties in Surrey and Kent, with you and I the taxpayer picking up half the tab, His Holiness was being investigated by the local council.
Here at Reigate and Banstead we do have a zero-tolerance approach to fraud, so we investigate and pursue each case that comes up, and we recover fairly substantial amounts of money.
Having spotted a pattern in the fraud, investigators had to get to the bottom of how Younas AlGohar was affording such high rents and deposits. On paper he was living on benefits, but there seemed to be much more money floating around, so where was it coming from?
From looking at the claim paperwork, I was able to look into Younas AlGohar's finances. I noticed that he has declared that he held two bank accounts which hadn't been declared for benefit purposes.
These hidden accounts suggested that AlGohar wasn't leading the modest lifestyle of a spiritual leader living on benefits.
I noticed there was a lot of payments being made, especially to flight companies and hotels abroad, as well as payments in foreign currency. And there were also lots of debits that were coming in, suggesting there was some form of either earned or unearned income going into the account as well.
But where was all the money coming from? It was coming in and going out. And he seemed to be a bit of an international traveller, with a taste for the high life.
The overseas payments on the bank statements showed that there were payments being made in foreign currency, including Sri Lankan rupee, American dollars, and in euros over in France as well as payments being made such as onto in-flights payments for duty-free and to airways as well.
With undeclared bank accounts and large payments being made and received, the investigator got on the phone to the Department for Work and Pensions, who'd been paying Younas AlGohar income support for over 4 years to the tune of £54,682, to which he was almost certainly not entitled. The two organisations combined forces. With the help of the investigators digging, Reigate and Bromley Council and the DWP now had some very difficult questions for AlGohar to answer. With the help of Surrey Police, it was time for them to pay him a visit, to gather some hard evidence on the source of his undisclosed income, and to find out whether he genuinely was living the kind of lifestyle that you'd expect from someone dependent on benefits. At 7 a.m. on a morning in November 2011, the team struck.
At the time of the raid, it was early one morning, Younas AlGohar was not actually present at the property. However, the operation continued regardless. A lot of documents that were found in the property, and a lot of documents were seized. And these are documents relating to his current or previous tenancies that he held, in relation to his income, and also in relation to the claims that he'd made for benefits, to develop a picture of his finances and his lifestyle.
These documents provided the proof that AlGohar had made false claims relating to his rental agreements and earnings. Investigators were also surprised by the huge haul of technical hardware, including mobile phones, laptops, and large-screen TVs found at the property.
There's no strict rules as to what kind of possessions a person can have when they're claiming benefits. There's nothing to stop a benefit claim having large TVs and lots of computer equipment. However, it depends how those items have been funded, which may raise alarm bells.
AlGohar wasn't at home for the raid, but later on handed himself into a local police station, where he was interviewed under caution.
Younas AlGohar was presented with the evidence that had been obtained during the investigation and the subsequent search of his property, and he was asked to comment on all the pieces of the evidence that were put before him.
In spite of all the evidence of 3 false housing benefit claims and defrauding the DWP, AlGohar remained tight-lipped.
At the start of the interview, Younas AlGohar confirmed his name and identity details, but gave a no-comment interview when the questions and evidence were put before him.
But there was one thing that came across very clearly from His Holiness.
Despite giving a no-comment interview, Younas AlGohar came across as polite and kind during the interview.
With undeclared bank accounts and large sums of money being credited and debited, the investigators believed that Younas AlGohar was a man who was not entitled to benefits, and the case was passed on to the decision-makers.
The decision-makers are trained benefit entitlement assessors within an authority such as the Council or the Department for Work and Pensions, who review claim paperwork and evidence, and they then use this to decide whether a claimant is entitled to benefits or not. The DWP decision-makers made the initial decision, and they decided that Younas AlGohar was not entitled to income support, which created an overpayment of £54,682. The decision-maker at Reigate and Brackley Borough Council then reviewed the evidence, and they also decided that Younas AlGohar was not entitled to his housing benefit or council tax benefit for the entirety of his claim. This created an overpayment of £3,498 housing benefit and £1,058 council tax benefit.
But it didn't stop there. There was the property in Keston to take into account too.
The case then passed to the decision-maker at London Borough of Bromley, who also decided that Younas AlGohar was not entitled to his housing benefit covering the entirety of his claim. This created an overpayment of £16,110. They also removed his entitlement to council tax benefit, creating an additional overpayment of £2,295.
That's a staggering £77,646 fleeced from the taxpayer by His Holiness, who gallivanted around the globe, staying in luxurious hotels and treating himself to duty-free. AlGohar was taken to court facing 12 charges of dishonesty under the Social Security Administration Act of 1992, but he pleaded not guilty despite the overwhelming evidence against him. 2 months later, he changed his mind.
At the plea and case management hearing in June 2013, Younas AlGohar changed his plea and eventually pled guilty to 11 of the 12 charges.
AlGohar was found not guilty of the 12th charge against him. At the sentencing hearing, his QC argued against a prison sentence due to his work with the Mehdi Foundation International, where he was an important figure in the fight against extremism.
Younas AlGohar was not sentenced to prison, however he was handed 3 concurrent imprisonment sentences which were suspended for 18 months, the longest of which was being 36 weeks.
Perhaps he was able to walk from the court a free man because in between pleading guilty and the sentencing hearing, although not implicated in any way in his crime, the Mehdi Foundation International dug deep and repaid a £75,585 overpayment in full. That really is divine intervention, and the money is now back in the public purse. AlGohar was ordered to do 240 hours of community service and pay costs of £6,000.
The repaid money has gone back into the public purse, and it can now be used to provide benefits to those who are in a genuine need for benefits assistance.
We are very satisfied with the outcome of the case, and it vindicates the work that the team put into securing the conviction. It was a very sizable amount of money, and I think the sanctions that the court have put in place reflect the seriousness, and we are making very clear that we will publicise this fact, the successful prosecution, to deter other people in future.
To the members of the Mehdi Foundation, Younas AlGohar was someone who, for 3 years, had chosen to abstain from all but the basic necessities of life. Unfortunately, that didn't include housing and council tax benefit and income support. On the plus side, he is now once again working in the community.